In this video, we're going to explore the difference between absolute, relative, and mixed references in Excel, and we're going to look at why you might need to use one over the other. Let's get into it. If you aren't already familiar, a cell reference is how we, the user, tell Excel that we're referring to a specific cell. Let's first look at the syntax of different cell references, and then we'll jump into an example demonstrating how we'd use each. A relative cell reference is one that adjusts and changes when copied or when using autofill. This is indicated by the lack of a $sign in the reference. An absolute cell reference, on the other hand, is the opposite. It does not adjust or change when copied or autofilled, which is great if we constantly need to reference a specific cell over and over. Lastly, mixed cell references are a combination of the two, where in one case, the row will stay constant and the column will change dynamically, or where the column will stay constant and the row will change dynamically. If you ever get confused, just know that the positioning of the $sign is what matters the most. If a $sign is positioned before the column reference, it will lock the column reference in place. Similarly, if a $sign is positioned before the row reference, it will lock the row reference in place. Let's work through an example to demonstrate when and why you'd want to use different cell references. Here we want to prepare some stretch targets for our sales goals over the next 5 years, based on our predefined targets that we can see in the green table. Let's start by setting the stretch target for pens in 2021. To get our stretch target, we just need to multiply our predefined target in cell D6 by the factor in cell D2. This gets us the expected result of 300. Now let's go ahead and drag this formula down and apply it to the other products. Immediately, we see something's wrong. We shouldn't be getting any zeros here, and we shouldn't be having these large values that we see towards the bottom. Looking into the formula in cell D17, we see that we are no longer multiplying by cell D2. Instead, it's cell D3. This is a perfect example of why we'd want to use an absolute reference to lock the cell D2 reference down. If we lock this cell reference down, it won't change when we apply the formula to other cells. So let's try it again. Let's multiply cell D6 by cell D2, but this time, let's set cell D2 as an absolute reference. We can do this quickly by hitting the F4 key. Now when we apply this formula to the rest of the table, we get the expected results. We can quickly hop into a few cells and check their formulas. Everything looks good. Now let's look at a very similar example, but instead, we have several multiplication factors at the top as they change each year. Let's follow the same process we went through in the previous example and multiply cell D6 by cell D2 and then lock down cell D2 in our formula. If we drag this formula across and look into cell H16, we see that we're still multiplying by cell D2, even though we really want to be multiplying by cell H2. And this is where we can use mixed cell references. Again, let's start over. Let's multiply cell D6 by cell D2, but this time, let's hit the F4 key twice, which only locks the row reference and not the column reference. Pressing the F4 key multiple times allows us to filter through the different cell referencing options. Now, when we drag the formula across, we can see that the column references change, which is great. Lastly, we could drag these formulas down and we see that every formula lines up as expected, and now we can use varying multiplication factors by year. Clicking into the cells, again we see that everything lines up with dynamic column references and fixed row references. Becoming comfortable with cell referencing in Excel is probably one of the most important things you can do early on. It'll avoid tons of confusion and will save you endless amounts of time trying to figure out why your formulas just aren't calculating properly. And that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and let me know down in the comments if you have any other video ideas you'd like to see. Thanks a lot and have a great day.